This podcast was brought to you by the good people at Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial right now at audibletrial.com/nothingbutstatic. Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we'll be discussing Kevin Party. Chris, how was Kevin's party?
I thought Kevin's party was great.
Yeah?
I really enjoyed Kevin's party. I think it's the best use of the Kevin character. I'd actually want to see him again now.
Well, on my deathbed, I'll be whispering that Kevin throws the best parties.
Yeah, but that's we'll get to it. But that kind of style of comedy, I feel like watching this episode, we've complimented the show on that before. That sort of new girl adult style of comedy of characters just saying kind of slightly offbeat things. And watching this episode, I was like, oh, it feels like they've not done this in a while, and they did it kind of full force in this episode. So yeah, it's a preview of what I thought. But in terms of the synopsis, Stephen is putting out posters for Lion. He's kind of suddenly gone, oh yeah, Lion's missing. So he's putting up posters. Kevin appears, and Kevin invites him to a party, revealing that he's also invited Connie because he wants Stevonnie to show up. Because things are always kind of cool and exciting when Stevonnie shows up. Stephen goes to the party. He's wearing his shirt that Connie bought him, and Connie is there with Lion. Connie's got a new haircut. Stephen's intimidated. He's scared to go over and chat to her. So Kevin decides to try and tutor Stephen in sort of making an impression when your ex is around. And in the similar ways that Gemcation dealt with the kind of the texting phase, this very much deals with that sort of after stage, seeing your ex for the first time. And Kevin very much believes Stephen and Connie are exes. So he makes him wear new clothes, he makes him chat to him. Eventually Stephen does go over, confronts Connie. They talk about being best friends, which sort of confuses Kevin because he's like, wait, what is this? And Connie reveals that she did go to try and speak to him while he was away on vacation. She did contemplate texting back. And she's, sorry it's been so long. Stephen gives a kind of very eloquent apology speech. They forgive each other and ride off on Lion. And with Kevin angry that Stevonnie's not there. I mean, I'd argue a big pink lion has just disappeared in the sky and everyone's cheered. So ironically, Kevin's party does have a slightly cool angle to it that they could have had Kevin realise. But he doesn't. He's just all depressed that Stevonnie's not there. A very quick summary, but actually I thought a great episode. I thought it was funny. I thought it was entertaining. I like...
Big butts and I cannot lie?
Yeah, I like the use of treating it like a breakup situation and doing a storyline that we've seen 1,000 times before, like someone tries to convince another friend to make someone jealous, even though that's clearly the wrong way to do it. But because it's being done in a children's animated show about alien gems, it feels really unique and interesting because you never expect to see that in this context.
Also, they don't quite play it the make a jealous way. They play it the play it cool way. And what's good about it is it plays into Kevin's character because it's Kevin's interpretation of what's cool. But what's ironic about that is we establish in this episode that Kevin thinks Stevonnie's cool because she doesn't care what anyone thinks. Yet he does nothing but care what everyone thinks. So his advice to Stephen...
He could replace Lars in that role on this show.
You're actually not wrong. Different reasoning with Kevin and Lars, slightly more nefarious and calculated. But yeah, 100%, you're not wrong. And I think...
seemingly he's been burnt in the past as well. There's a reference to Sabine, is it? Sadine?
Yeah, I think that was it, yeah. Who... I'll tell you a theory that cropped up.
I was just about to say, is that what if she is Pearl's biker chick?
That was my theory at the time.
Is that the theory?
That was my theory at the time. Yeah,
because I just thought then, why have they named her? And I thought, maybe that's it.
Yeah, you just went down the same route my brain did, which is S, Sabine, very possible that there's a link there. But
I take it that's other people have theorized that as well.
What's that, sorry?
I take it other people have theorized that as well.
I've never seen it, but almost certainly. Yeah, I've directly. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that written down, but yeah, there's no way we're the only people who thought that. And I didn't look into it too much at the time because it was just like a loose. Oh, I think there's a chance that could be that sort of thing, rather than I must go find affirmation for my theory. But the irony of the Kevin situation is that his advice to Stephen is kind of brilliant in that. Not that it's good advice, it's terrible advice, never listen to Kevin. But it's brilliant from the writer's perspective because he's not playing the make her jealous card, he's playing the act like you don't care card, which is very in line with Kevin's ethos. And like, you've moved on, your life's great, she wants to be with you, not the other way around. Like, it's very indicative and says a lot about Kevin while being an episode about Stephen and Connie. I mean, Stephen's an idiot for ever listening to him because he's clearly a douchebag, but I do kind of like the way they used him here, and I do think that particular element, particularly the way they explored Kevin's character at the same time, was really clever.
It's the biggest 360 on a character I've been on, because like Ronaldo's had some, like the last one I think I remember we complimented and said it was the best use of Ronaldo. No, not the last one, that was an appalling use of Ronaldo. But there's been a Ronaldo episode, if I'm right in saying the last one was when he tries to join the Gems. That wasn't great. No, but there's been a Ronaldo episode.
There was the episode where it was Rising Tides, Crashing Skies, where it was like his documentary.
Yes, and then we said but what we said, if memory serves, was that was the best use of Ronaldo, whereas this, I feel, enhances and develops Kevin's character. Ronaldo's character was still irritating in that it was just the best use of him, whereas this time I actually feel I feel more inclined to see more of the Kevin character. It's funny because Stephen kind of properly goes over there to speak to Connie around like the 9-minute mark. Yeah. And I was like, maybe they're not going to wrap this up. Maybe they're not going to conclude this story. And if they do conclude it, how is it going to be satisfactory? But actually, what's really clever about it is satisfactory, because essentially Stephen just summarizes all the shit he's learned since they've stopped speaking, and summarizes why he feels sorry, which he kind of learned in Dewey Wins. And Connie reveals that she did try and speak to him, so you kind of go, oh, okay, well, we don't need to see her forgive him because she kind of already has forgiven him. We've just not been able to see it because he was on Gemcation and stuff like that. So actually, it concludes that arc really well and kind of goes back on it feeling like a bomb, because a bomb would need this big sort of over-dramatic conclusion where this sums it up really nicely, I think. That whole Stephen Connie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because there was a point when I was watching this originally, and I haven't brought it up because I didn't want to sort of like lead you that way, but there was a point when I was going, Connie's actually being kind of douchey about this, because whether she disagrees with him or not, like whether she's mad at him or not, that's fine. She's allowed to be. But don't leave him. Like, you're too good of friends to not be communicating. Like, it's too big of a relationship to drop and not talk to him. So I remember thinking when we were building towards Stephen seeing Connie here, I was starting to feel a bit resentful to Connie. I remember feeling like, no, you should have at least texted him back and said, look, I need space. You should have at least done that in my head. That's what I'm saying. Like, just a bit of communication. Don't just leave him in the lurch. You were driving him crazy. Like, that's really not fair. Like, yes, he's done something that's upset you, but you at least owe him one little 2 seconds text of, please just leave me be for now. I need some time to process this and see how I feel. We'll come back to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's all she needed to do, and he wouldn't have gone as crazy. Do you know what I mean? So, like, So I remember coming to this episode feeling like, I hope, yes, Steven's blown it, and he needs to make his apologies 100%, but Connie hasn't been great either, and I hope they deal with that. Because I would be a little mad at Connie if I was Steven. Just a little. Just for not giving me that one little... Just any little response of just a leave me alone, please. This is over. You know, would be. So
you must have been really pleased when they did definitely deal with that.
100%
in that way.
Yeah, and they did it perfectly. She went to speak to him. She decided that the best way to do it was in person, which I'm gonna note is actually very consistent with her character, because in full disclosure, when they sort of sort of Stephen wasn't talking to Connie, they did there was a very similar plot point of Connie wanting to do it face to face. Like she's saying to Stephen, I'm not doing this over the phone. You come out and you face me and you tell me face to face that you don't want to hang out with me anymore. So
Didn't she in Mindful Education as well insist on seeing the kid that she beat up?
Very likely, yeah. I think that's very. I don't directly remember like that exact moment, but yeah, that fits. So they've been very consistent with Connie's character here in that she has always felt it was better to handle the stuff face to face than over text or through phone or technology or whatever. So not only is it consistent with her character, but it explains everything. Because he immediately went, which is why it's so important you get the Raising the Barn episodes and the Gemcation episodes the right way round. Because apparently there was some confusion with the way they were released on the app. That's why I had them in the wrong order, Chris. So I didn't talk about this at the time, but I had given them to Chris in the wrong order, with Gemcation coming third behind Raising the Barn, when in reality Raising the Barn should come first. And it's really important Raising the Barn comes first, because the explanation they give here is that after that all happened, she decided she needed to talk to him. She went to go talk to him, and immediately found the note on the door. The note we already knew exists because they set that up with Ronaldo's text as well, which again, I love the way it all sort of comes together here. It's really neat. And then she, obviously she didn't know when he'd be back, whatever. Then they pretty much, they make it pretty clear that only a handful of days may have passed since then. So yeah, I think that, I think it's really well done. And I think they do a really good job of making me not angry at Connie.
I think the one element you could draw to, and you could probably fansplain around this, and you may moan at me or comments may, but the opening where Stephen's putting up the missing lion posters, I was like, oh, lion hasn't been the excuse, seemingly might not have been the excuse for him not seeing Lars, because Stephen seemingly didn't realise lion was missing until now, potentially, or did realise but didn't think it was a big deal and is now panicked about it. That's the only element where I was like, It does confirm that that's potentially why he's not been seeing Lars, because Lion's not been there to see him.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I still think some dialogue in an earlier episode stating that would have been better.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's fair. Because I think just set up that Connie's got lines sooner. Like there's really because they sort of set it up without officially setting it up. Like they show Connie leaving on Lion. Lion has gone with Connie, but the idea that Lion didn't come back needs to be pre-established to make sure that people aren't just assuming, well, Connie got a lift from Lion and then Lion returned. Like, there's just no reason not to put that line in an earlier episode. We talked about it over this whole arc, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, definitely.
That is the bigger issue.
But that beginning sort of lends credence to that, and I was like, oh, it's a shame.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame they finally do it, but do it 10 minutes before they bring Lion back into it.
Yeah. I think this episode was funnier than a lot of recent episodes have been. Some of the, the jokes about the party, the jacket stuff, some of Kevin's dialogue was just very funny. I compliment this episode for that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
1 second, sorry. No, okay. Sorry, I'm basically, for those listening, there's a chance this podcast may get interrupted because my girlfriend decided to reveal to me this morning that there is a sofa arriving, or potentially two sofas, Chris. I don't know where we're going to put the second.
What are you going to do with your existing sofa? Well, finish telling that, and then I'll ask my sofa question.
So it's coming this morning. She's basically got a friend is giving away a sofa because they're moving it. It's a really good condition sofa, but they barely used it. They're just moving house. It doesn't fit with the new aesthetic, Chris. So we're getting some free sofas, which is lovely. But they're arriving randomly, potentially while we're recording this.
What are you doing with your old sofa?
Probably going to donate it to a charity furniture shop so they can sell it for some money for charity.
Oh, fair enough.
I like that sofa as well. It's a shame it's going.
You've clearly been overruled sofa-wise.
Yes, I have. Nadia hates the current sofa. I love
it. Fair enough. Your sofa's all right.
I thought I could sneak it into my office, but it's just too big.
No, it wouldn't fit in there.
No, it would, but it would replace the floor. You would have to walk. You'd have to walk on the sofa. And I thought they'd pulled up there, which is why I stopped for a second, got distracted. No, I agree that this is one of the funnier episodes we've seen in a while. I think Kevin's a really good comedic foil when they play him this way.
Yeah, I thought his character was done so well in this. Because also, like, yes, he's... well, no, he's not. Like, you could make the argument that he's trying to get them talking again for selfish means, because he sees that as the way for Stevonnie to show up. But actually, the way they play it, he kind of, before helping them, he's very much like, okay, here's what you do. And like, he brings up his ex, and he specifically kind of says, otherwise you're in another situation like I was with her, in a roundabout way. That's not the exact dialogue, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he means. And you feel like he's helping him for genuine reasons. I feel like he's not...
Well, yeah. With that though, didn't he do that in the racing one where he gave a bullshit story about his brother like racing or something, and then it turned out he tells Stevonnie on the way back that that's fiction. He made that up to get her sympathies.
I can't remember. Clearly didn't make as much of an impact as it did here, or maybe it did at the time, and I just can't remember.
So he tells a sob story in the one where the I forgot what it's called, the one where they're racing down the hill. And then he basically reveals that it was fiction, and that he sort of falsely acquired Stevonnie's sympathy, and Stevonnie obviously is for a minute bummed out about that and disappointed in Kevin, and then realizes, well, that's his issue, and then relaxes, and that's when Stevonnie starts to calms down and more becomes herself. Like she gets over that. She's like, I don't let Kevin be Kevin. Why am I going to let Kevin's personality bum me out? So that's one of the arcs of, that's one of the parts of that episode I recall. So with that in mind, in this one, did you not think there's maybe a potential element of this story not being true also, or did you feel this was more sincere than that?
No, it felt way more sincere, because the way they animated it, the way he went red, the way he almost got a bit tearful, that his reactions and decisions with Stephen thereafter, it felt way more genuine in this. Yeah, definitely. And I just thought it was a really great use of the character. I in general, I really liked this episode a lot.
Yeah, no, I do think it's a really good one. I think it's kind of surprising that they were able to wrap up the Connie situation so straightforwardly. There is a slight frustration to it, though, which some people have echoed, which I think is fair, even if I didn't quite feel it, which is that, what was the point in having them fall out if all you're going to do is keep them apart for 5 episodes and then have them have one conversation to fix it? It's a reasonable debate.
I get it. I think I don't want to retread because I think we've made our points on that conversation and why we think it works known a few minutes ago. So, but it goes back to all that stuff of, they address in the conversation that she'd already felt forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. I think the stuff we've already talked about slightly counter-argues that. But also I think you just got some great stuff from it. I love Gemcation. I love that scene at the end of Raising the Barn where Peridot and Stephen are parallel. I think you could argue that about any time anyone falls out on a show. I think they've learnt stuff going forward. I think it's going to be really interesting, because I don't see how. Because I just feel like if they were in that situation now, Stephen would probably do exactly the same thing again. So I think it's going to be really interesting moving forward to see how they stick to next time they're in a situation like that. Stephen has to turn to Connie based on this, or their friendship really will be over if he does it again. So I think that's a really interesting move going forward. So I understand that complaint, that criticism, but it's not one that personally bothers me, at least.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you, because I think what it comes down to is, yes, if you actually analyse the Stephen Connie plot, it's she tells him she's not happy and goes away, then they meet and she's immediately already forgiven him.
Time has passed.
Exactly. So you could say, where's the story? The reason I disagree with those people is because the story is really not about the fallout, more about making Stephen address that he's done that, and that he needs to learn to be sorry about the way he's behaved, and he learns that
And
in an early episode, and then you get all these great character stuff in between, like of how he's dealing with Herb not responding and all that stuff.
And we get this amazing stuff where the character is 14 years old, and we somehow, in the middle of all the gem stuff, in the middle of this kind of big science fiction show, we're getting 14-year-old plots about relationships and friendships, arguments falling apart and that kind of stuff. And, are they friends or are they a relationship? And that's how amazing is it that we're getting that stuff. Arguably, like, I'm going to go out on I'd have to really think about it, and this might be too bold a statement, but arguably, they're doing that stuff better than Harry Potter did on some occasions. I mean, the Order of the Phoenix gets quite a bit of grief for emo Harry, and I think there's, Harry and
emo Harry doesn't bother me. Shouty Harry bothers me. The amount of anger in that book drives me up the wall.
And I appreciate someone could leave an essay proving me why I'm wrong and that signs were there from the beginning, but essentially, Harry and Ginny, he turns a corner, sees her kissing someone else, and get jealous. Ron and Hermione, she embedded really well. I'm not going to deny that. But
sorry to interrupt you, Chris, but I think the sofas have arrived.
Right, cool.
Hold for a second. I'm so sorry.
Yep.
You don't
I'm going to finish my Harry and Ginny point.
I interrupted your point. You finish your point while I did the sofas.
Yeah. So, arguably, I think, and that's probably unfair. Harry Potter did do a lot of that stuff brilliantly, but so I think the more I think about it, I will probably take that back. So don't leave your essays in the comment. I take it back because actually they did a lot of lesson stuff, and I suppose Ron and Harry's fight in the Goblet of Fire was very good. So I take it back. They probably don't do it as well as Harry Potter, but the fact that they're doing it at all, the fact that we're getting these plots representing that are fantastic, and I love that. So yeah, that's my point. I'm just gonna pause because I don't know whether is Dan gonna have to help the friend put the sofas in, so I don't want to fill for 20 minutes while Dan's literally helping someone lift in a sofa or tell someone where the sofa's going. So I'm probably just going to go silent so that Dan can cut. Hopefully he doesn't leave in 10 minutes of silence or so. Cut this, Dan. Cut that, Dan. Dan, cut this. Jeez.
I am back. Straight. So, Chris, I'm going to respond to that point I definitely just heard all of.
Yeah. What did you think?
I think that's a really concise and interesting point about Ginny.
Yeah, that's actually I then realised before I started yelling at you to cut the audio that I was wrong. Because whilst I think the Harry and Ginny example is probably fair, actually there are other examples in that series where they do it very well.
Well, I think what's interesting,
crux of the point is how amazing is it that Steven Universe does it.
Well, that's the thing is it's done really well, and I tell you what they did that I thought was really clever. By having Kevin question it, you're sort of setting up like a perfect, like he's just kind of the audience's surrogate. Like he's like, wait, what? Yeah, I thought you guys were going out. Like, what's the sitch here? Like he's asking.
Yeah.
He's asking the question we're all thinking. And while that's perfect in character because it makes sense for Kevin to be like that because he's a bit of a douche, but he is also being the surrogate for the audience in that situation. So that works on a couple of different levels. And I thought that was really clever of the writers to sort of give him that voice and voice that question because it sort of validates our own position as the audience going, well, actually, yeah, what is this? Yeah,
especially because so much of this argument plot is played out like a breakup plot.
100%. And yeah, again, having Kevin observe that is like both funny and works in character, but also when in a wider context, it's like, yeah, like the audience probably feel very similar to how Kevin feels in that moment, which is, wait, you're friends? Like, I don't understand this at all. Which is pretty clever. The other thing I thought as well is I agreed with you so much on what you said about Lion, like, which is Lion, shoots a portal and walks on water and then leaps into it, and it's like, is that not enough for Kevin's party? Well, not enough for Kevin.
Yeah, and I thought that was so, because you could have played that both ways. You could have been like, you could have just had Kevin be like, after that happened and everyone cheered, be like, yeah, you see that? Yeah, that was planned, like, or you could have gone the other way. And I think it's more interesting long term for the character, especially as we don't seemingly have this from Lars anymore, to have him be more, he's not getting it. He doesn't. Everyone is literally cheering. Like, clearly the party has been saved by that, yet he doesn't see it because it's not been saved in the way that he had in his head.
Well, yeah, there's two interpretations of that, and I do think it's that one. I want to clarify here that that's exactly what they were going for. He had his mind set so much on one thing that he didn't even see the other awesome thing happening in front of him, but everyone else did, because they're more in the moment, enjoying the party, not worrying too much about whether everyone's enjoying the party. Like, on board with that, I think that's exactly what the writers were going for, and it works really well. There is another interpretation I have read. I don't think it's massively sort of believed, as it were. I could be wrong. Maybe the comments will prove me wrong here. But the other interpretation is that actually he has a crush on Stevonnie, and he was just disappointed Stevonnie wasn't coming out to play.
Yeah, which I think is reasonable as well. I think that's perfectly logical. He does certainly seem to have a crush on her, and he, like you say, in the last episode with her, he was opening up to her and was honest with her. But then the odd thing about that plot is, where can you go with that? Do two 14-year-old children have to fuse to let down an adult man, or do you put him? Is it really about his ex?
Well, how old is Kevin? That's the other question. How old is Kevin?
Well, I get the impression Kevin's older than Lars and the cool kids, so they must be around 17, 18, and then Kevin's a few years older than that.
So like 20, 21.
Theory. Yeah, that's sort of my theory, but I don't know if I'm right, obviously.
Yeah.
But he feels older than them, because if he wasn't, then they would be at that party potentially, or I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's nowhere to go with that other than doing a Jamie style episode where they have to let him down.
Exactly, which
we've done. Yeah, there's nothing really new to do with that. But yeah, because like I said, I was a little torn on this episode because I thought they'd done such a good job making Kevin a genuinely sort of more villainous Lars. He was too pushy with them, and there was a serious message about about consent, like in his first episode, and it felt really creepy and off and wrong, and like he seemed like a really, really villainous character. And then in the other one, he like completely lies to Connie, Stevonnie, and like misleads them, and then in this one, he's much more sympathetic. He's still a douchebag, but he's, as you pointed out, in more of a Lars way. And I wonder if softening that character, I enjoy this episode, and I think it works. But in the grander scheme of things, is softening that character potentially taking away one of the show's most villainous humans, of which there aren't many? Why would you necessarily want to go ahead and soften him too much? In the grander scale of things, I agree it works in the context of this 10-minute episode, and it also even works if you're just tracking his arc. He, as you get to know him better, he becomes less villainous. But I wonder if they're missing a trick not keeping him villainous, because all the other humans are quite likable, with the obvious exception of Ronaldo. Sorry, my hay fever.
But that's personal perception. I don't think Ronaldo is meant to be unlikable.
He tried to kill Lars.
The show's forgotten about that, though. I don't think from the makers, from the showrunners' point of view, I don't think from the storytelling point of view, Ronaldo is meant to be a villain.
No, he's not. No, absolutely not. 100%. So then
because he was used for comedic relief in 2-3 episodes.
So that
wouldn't do that.
That raises the question then: have they maybe shot themselves in the foot a little bit, arcing Kevin in this slightly softer direction? Yes, it functioned and I enjoyed it, but have they potentially taken a character that was very interesting and basically made him a substitute for a previous character that's moved on?
I don't. Well, I don't mind that because I think the Kevin stuff is interesting enough and different enough. I don't think, just on the villain thing, I think when you've got monsters and governments and homeworlds and shattering and gems and diamonds, I don't think you need a human villain. I think, having all the human characters be nice and fulfill multiple roles, fulfill curiosity roles and running away screaming roles and fighting with them roles. I don't think you need a villain human, and I think that Kevin, they have made interesting enough that even if it is, slightly Lars-esque, I think that's fine.
Do you not feel that they've...
Because also, just because they've moved Lars on, no one was done with Lars. We weren't, it's not like we were like, oh, we want less Lars. It's no bad thing. It's just he's developed beyond that.
I agree. But like I said, you've got this potential issue of why would you take a character as interesting as Kevin, and potentially make him...
But I don't think he was interesting. He was irritating. I didn't like him.
Yeah, but that was what was interesting about him. There was no one else in that world like that.
Yeah, for me, and this might be a personal thing, that wasn't interesting. This is way more interesting than that to me. So,
okay.
But I get what you're saying, and I know you liked that particular side of Kevin. But
I didn't like him. I liked what potential for interesting and new stories he gave, because the two Kevin episodes prior to this one felt unlike anything else this show has ever done. Alone Together was incredible in terms of like its tone, and it just felt so off kilter for the show, because a character like this feels really out of place in the show, or did. This feels more like the show we're watching, but I enjoyed almost having this opportunity to just every now and then dip into the weird world of Kevin, this like completely amoral character in an otherwise quite moral show. So yeah, I kind of I do feel a little bit like they've missed out, because again, let's not pretend that I liked the character. Obviously, there's a difference between, okay, so there's two layers of liking a character. There's like like them whether you like them on a personal level, and then there's whether you like the character because of their influence on the plot. I liked what Kevin did to the plot and stories and tone of the show. Obviously, Kevin was a bad dude, so I didn't like him. If that makes sense. And I think that what I'm getting at is that I feel like we may have, through this episode, lost him as playing that role, which is a shame, just on the basis of it was like a guarantee of a really unusual episode every now and then, something that really I remember looking forward to him reappearing when I heard he was coming back. So yeah, and
that's fair. It'd be interesting to see what people think in the comments, because I think we just are on. I'm more interested in this. I think it's. I don't think either of us are wrong. It comes down to personal preference and what we wanted from that character. And now I want this way more than what we were getting, whereas you want more what we were getting.
But that's what I like. Is what we were getting was completely different every time. So
that's what I'm saying. So I'm way more engaged with this as a plot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And characterization wise. So yeah, I'd be intrigued just to see. Tell us what you want from Kevin down below.
Yeah, do it. What do you want from Kevin?
Yeah.
Do you want the villainous Kevin, or do you want Kevin to go on a mini sort of he's actually a human after all arc?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I mean, the way you phrased that made it sound like the second option was less exciting in general. I think you were biased in your phrasing, Dan. You're like, do you want a villainous Kevin, or do you want Kevin's just a human?
Yep.
Fucking.
All right, you do it. You do the same thing. Ask the same question, but put your spin on the answers to balance it out.
Okay. Well, we're doing both at once. So do yours again, and then I'll do mine.
I don't know how I phrased it.
And we're trying to make it sound natural.
Okay. So do you want like an interesting sort of villainous Kevin that stands out from all the other humans on the show, Or do you just want, Lars 2.0? It turns out he's human after all.
Yeah. Let us know down below whether you want a random bad guy human, even though we've got diamonds and gems to watch in terms of villains, or whether you want an in-depth character exploration dealing with his kind of complex backstory and this kind of constant fight between wanting to do the right thing for the right reasons and wanting to do them for the wrong reasons. And what that means for mankind.
Yeah, a plot that we certainly haven't seen before.
See, why do we did it even? Why do you snotty add-on? Why it was even? You did your bit, I did mine, and now you've added your little add-on, your little snarky add-on. Why have you got to have the last word, Dan?
You can have a snarky add-on.
Calm down.
Go for your snarky add-on.
Well, I don't want a snarky add-on. I'm above that.
That's because you've got nothing.
I got the moral high ground is what I've got, my friend. I didn't ask.
That is a mighty fine-looking high horse you're riding over there, Chris. How is that?
I can't ride horses. What? I'd imagine that's something I'd be bad at. Just before we do Trib, I didn't ask. In the excitement of continuing the episode, what are the new sofas like?
I didn't. I sat on one for about 2 seconds to check that it didn't collapse under my weight before I. Not that was a likely scenario. Just
I was gonna say, right? Okay.
No, it's just one of those things where like. It's like I felt like I should quickly try it, but I also knew you were just waiting on the phone line for me to come back. So I was just like, bloop, yeah, seems fine, and I just came in here. They look fine. They're nice looking sofas.
Do they fit in the room?
They do. But we'll have to get the old one out before we can do anything of interest with them. Like right now, they're in the way because I can't put them where the current sofa is. If that makes sense.
So how are you gonna have to get someone to pick up the old one? I take it.
If you do it, the charity furniture shops do collections because they do deliveries. So they tend to do collections and deliveries the same day. So like they have a truck that they own, and they'll basically, you go into a charity furniture shop and you buy like a sofa or a big set of drawers or whatever. They will offer for a small fee to bring it to your house. And when those guys are trucking about, dropping stuff off, people who've agreed to sell shit, they'll pick those up too.
But they need to, like, around here, the charity furniture shops are quite specific about like tags for fire safety and the condition. Have they got to inspect the sofa before they agree to buy it?
Yeah, probably.
Take just like one cushion down to the shop and like.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. I have to ask Nadia. We've never given furniture to them before, or not since. No, because we've been getting all our furniture from these places for a while. We got like some of our drawers and stuff from them. They get some really good furniture that people just give away because like they're moving house and it doesn't fit the aesthetic or whatever. And it's like, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, we've always like. We've always liked, because we've been living in such random places, we've always had like a hodgepodge vibe to our furniture. None of it's ever been matchy. So in fact, we've started intentionally going contrary to that, like getting stuff that really does not match on purpose, and that's kind of the theme. And it looks fine, and it's usually like there's this set of drawers, Anyfan, that's just these incredible like old oak drawers. They're just beautiful, and like she paid nothing for them, and they're in such good condition. And I was like, how? So we've only ever bought. We've never sold because we've been buying, it's because we've gone to a new house and had a requirement for it, and anything we've got rid of is because it's broken or fallen apart. So then that leaves the question, I suppose, of how do you sell to a charity shop? And the answer, Chris, is I don't know, but I will report back on a future episode. There's our arc to replace, what was his name? The guy in the car.
Oh, Dave. Now that I've moved, I'm unlikely to ever see Dave again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good.
I hadn't sort of realised that arc was over until now, but yeah, I'm not gonna see Dave. I wouldn't be able to with the view I've got from this room, and it's a completely different house. So yeah, Dave. Oh, that's a shame.
So Dave's gone.
The Dave arc is done, so we've now got the ongoing story of Dan getting rid of his sofa.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Cool.
Any triv?
Yeah, there's a few, and you'll be glad to hear, Chris. This week I sifted through them, so I can currently not see the shit ones.
I'm very glad to hear.
Therefore, I don't have to make fun of them. So they finally confirmed which state Beach City is located in.
Oh wow!
So there you go. It's Delmarva.
Shit, cool. That's cool.
The east coast of the United States, where Beach City is located. I assume that's. I think that's fictional. There's no state called Delmarva. There is a Delmarva Peninsula in the real world that's on the east coast of the United States.
Okay. Cool.
And there's a town in Maryland called... Oh, no, there isn't. No. Nope.
Cool. That's cool.
But it is a combination, apparently, of Delaware and Maryland.
Well, that's that damn gem war causing havoc with the states.
Yeah. And apparently the irony there is that obviously Delmarva named Delaware and Maryland, most likely, because that's what the peninsula is named after. The area code Stephen gives on his phone number, 301, is the real-life area code for Maryland.
Oh, cool. That's a nice attention to detail.
Yeah. Stephen mentions that he's still 14, which confirms this episode takes place before August 15th, which is his birthday. Because if you're tracking the seasons with the show, you actually can, and people have. There's been some interesting comments actually in our very YouTube videos underneath them about like how you can track the show's like progression through like what time of year each episode takes place in. When Kevin met Stefani in the past, he thought Stephen's name was actually Clarence, which is sort of a jokey reference to the protagonist of the TV show Clarence on Cartoon Network also.
Cool.
That's pretty good. One of the snacks
nice.
Stephen brings to the party resembles a popular Japanese snack of Pocky, which I have eaten and are delicious.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't get too much of it because he throws them away quite quickly, but that's a nice little nod.
Yeah, I really like Pocky. I had Pocky at Christmas. I was given 2 boxes of Pocky at Christmas. Standard, original style chocolate ones, and then they've done a dime bar version of, with like bits of like, you know, that sort of what do you call the stuff inside the dime? The
oh, like nougat? Is it like really? No, it's not nougat. It's tougher than nougat, isn't it?
It is. Dime bar. What is in a dime bar? God damn it! There's a word for it. For those who don't know, it dime is a Swedish chocolate bar that you can get in most of Europe. I don't know if it's available in the States. But what's the stuff inside? Oh, apparently it's very similar to a Hershey's Heath and Score bar, if that helps people.
Nice.
Oh, God, that's going to drive me mad. What is the stuff inside of a dime bar called?
I have no idea, I'm afraid.
I'm Googling it.
I thought you were already Googling.
No, I was just filling air because otherwise it's just. Oh, it's hardened almond caramel.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, the hard caramel fits. That makes a lot of sense.
There you go. It's like a special hardened caramel.
Cool.
And it's and there were bits of that inside the Pocky, and it's delicious.
Nice. I'm glad you enjoyed your Japanese snacks.
They were good. They were good. I'm going to buy many a Pocky when we're in Japan in a couple of months. Very excited. I'm going to be in Japan in like a month and a bit. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
We're going to figure out our release schedule and get ahead on these podcasts as well. Didn't even think about that. Fucking hell. Shit. Anyway, let's not worry about that. I'm gone for like 2.5 weeks as well, which isn't going to help anything. Anyway. We'll work it out. Stephen and Connie reconcile their relationship after the agreement they had in Dewey Wins. I don't know why I didn't delete that one. We know that. It's unfortunate. I thought I deleted all the irrelevant ones. Connie's apparent silent treatment of Stephen is reminiscent of Full Disclosure. We've actually already talked about that. It talks about the face-to-face element of it, which I've mentioned earlier. Stephen wears the shirt that Connie gave him in Stephen's birthday, which I think is really cool. Like
I noticed that one. That's
really
a nice little nod.
I thought so too. Also, Kevin's friends, one of Kevin's friends asked who invited the 7-year-old, which is apparently a reference to, well, you know, in Stephen's birthday they go through the book to show Stephen growing, and he hasn't changed since he was 7. Do you remember that joke? They're flicking through it, and he sort of stopped growing at 7 for some weird reason. That's obviously the idea is that he still looks like a 7-year-old because he stopped growing at 7.
Because he's didn't get taller. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. I like that. Again, just a real strong continuity.
Quite subtle. But apparently, when Stephen walks away from Connie, he says "Chowser," similar to the way Kevin did in Beach City Drift. Beach City Drift, that's the other Kevin episode. And apparently, the drink that Stephen and Kevin are drinking is Sugar Shock Shutdown, which is a drink Amethyst was seen drinking in Last One Out of Beach City. So there you go.
I like the implication that they're using. That sounds like an energy drink. I like the implication that it's Jaeger bombs they're doing. We just don't see them shot in the Jaeger.
Are Jaeger bombs a thing in other countries, or is that like a very British drink?
I think they're a thing. I don't know. Comment below thoughts on Kevin and whether Jaeger's a thing.
Well, no, Jaeger is definitely a thing. Is it a Jaeger bomb specifically?
Jaeger bombs.
Which is for those. I don't know if you have this in the States. I guess they must do. That can't just be like a. But it's basically.
I doubt it's just a British thing.
It's a glass of Red Bull with a shot of Jaeger dropped in its original glass usually.
Well, it's traditionally Red Bull, but I think the cheaper among us have taken to doing it with things like Blue Dart and other appalling cheap energy drink equivalents of Red Bull.
I don't know why it became a thing, but there you go. Oh my god, Jaeger bombs themselves have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that has got to be a thing outside of this country then. Oh, I don't know, because obviously Jaeger's like a German thing, isn't it?
That wouldn't mean that it wasn't in the States.
It's really hard to explain. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, you might have that in your country. Feel free to comment below. We've asked them to comment below a lot this week. We've asked them to comment below a lot this week. Actually,
that's fine.
If we're going to make that the theme of the episode, can I say something? Ask people to comment below something I've been wanting people to do for ages. So on the iTunes version of this podcast, I can see a breakdown of where everyone is listening to us from, right? But on YouTube, my ability to view where our viewership comes from is a little bit trickier. Down below the comments, guys, tell me where you're from. What country, what state? I'm curious. How far spread are we? Cool. I would love to know. Especially some of our like really regular commenters, because like I get hints sometimes because people will say something that hints that they live either in the UK or the US or whatever, but I can't.
Yeah, about like time zones and stuff.
Yeah, so like I guess it does seem like a lot of our listeners are US, but I would love to know. So stick your comments down below. Where are you from? Do you have Jaeger bombs in your country? And what was the one from earlier that we asked about?
About what your thoughts on Kevin are.
And Kevin thoughts. General Kevin thoughts. There you go. You've got instructions.
Cool. What's the name of the episode? What's the name of the next episode?
The next episode is called Lars of the Stars.
Oh, good. I was hoping we'd deal with Lars right away now that we got Lion back.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited now because we're out of that weird sort of like that patch of, and they're not bad episodes, but like slightly less directional episodes. We have that
seems fair.
We have a pretty good run of episodes coming up, and there are even a couple that like have that less directional feel, but are really strong.
And we're close to catching up as well.
We are so close to catching up, buddy. I don't know how many episodes are left, but not many. But there's a bomb going to air in a week and a half, 2 weeks. So we're going to have 5 more on top of what we've got. In fact, there's a rumour it's going to be 6 more because there's a rumour that the final episode of that is double length.
Oh, that's exciting.
So the rumour is that we're going to have a 20-odd minute episode again for the first time since Gem Harvest. So that's quite exciting. So yeah.
But we've had the double episodes have been odd because we had the Topaz one, no, not Topaz, Bismuth one, which absolutely, you can see why that was a double episode event, and then Gem Harvest, which just felt like an extended episode,
but was equally very good as well. So it was kind of like
you couldn't
be too mad at it, but you were a bit like, why were you double length?
But I wouldn't assume that a double episode meant something historic happens in it.
That's a good point. It is the last episode of that bomb, though.
Yeah, that makes
so there's an element of me that thinks, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. We've got 8 episodes left of the current run. But if you add those 5 to it, 13.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I'm really excited. We're so close to catching up, Chris.
Yeah, I'm very excited to catch up.
Cannot wait.
That's awesome.
Yeah, really cool. So yeah,
sooner we catch up, sooner we get to the Honey We Shrunk Steven universe.
That's the goal at the end of the day. I really. How did we say we were going to do it? We were going to do a bomb across the week, is how you described it, and I think you said the first three of the first three movies. Honey, I Shrunk,
and then
Honey, I Blew
some
Up,
episodes,
and then
and Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
And then you were going to do one on a few episodes of the TV show. And what was
we're not going to watch all the TV show, but we'll watch a few episodes, and then we're doing one on the someone's uploaded to YouTube, Honey, We Shrunk the Audience, which was the 4D.
What a fucking
Disneyland
anticlimax that's going to be.
We could do it in the other order, maybe. But then anyway, unless you end on the first movie, it's relatively anticlimactic. Although I didn't enjoy the third movie.
The third movie's better than I think the second, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's gonna be hilarious. I'm weirdly looking forward to that.
But, yeah, I am. I'm excited about it.
But then we've
it's not going to come right away though, people, because we've got to watch. We've got to release it in a week, but we've also got like a lot to watch from it because we've got to watch 3 movies. So we won't. That will come, but it won't come right away.
Yeah, once we catch up, don't expect the very next Monday to be the start of Honey, I Shrunk Steven University. Not unless we're very far ahead and have had time to catch up that way. But that seems unlikely, especially with my holiday coming up around that time.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Yeah. There you go.
That's everything for this week then. So I've been Dan Doolin.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And we'll see you next time as I record from a brand new sofa while we discuss Laws of the Stars. That's a lie. I'm not going to be recording from the sofa. I've lied to them, Chris.
I was going to say, you don't record from the sofa.
No, I know. I just wanted to jazz it up a bit, and I thought like a reference, like a back call to call back.
You need to jazz. I think you've been trying to get too jazzy with those end bits. I think just
do it.
I think it's any need.
Yeah. Learn my lesson. Next week will be straightforward.
Please.
Bye.
Awkward ending.
They return. They know we think they're done. They always come back.
Yeah, just when you think we've forgotten about those awkward endings, they rear their head.
Yeah. Just general awkwardness. Bye.